The human body is amazing. It simply is amazing. And I've always felt that way ever since, hearing stories from my mum, who's a nurse. She would tell me stories about the human body and how things work. And I was always amazed how you could, cut yourself and then, I don't know, a week or two later, it's like perfect skin. It's like, what goes on there? How does the body know what the hell is going on? It doesn't have eyes. How does those cells that form the crust, how do they know what to become? How does everything work? I've always kind of been fascinated by it. And one of the things that led me into a medical field, I didn't really know I was going to become a nurse, but one of the ideas behind me going to the medical field was that I just find it fascinating. I also found cars fascinating and engineering in general. But the body was just different. And probably a large part of this squat everyday thing is experimentation. Every time I experiment with an exercise, I pay attention to how it makes me feel, how it translates to other exercises, how other exercises feel after I've done this particular exercise. And it goes on forever, endlessly, mixing and matching exercises, ideas, and see how it all kind of comes together. And then eventually this big puzzle starts to formulate itself purely because we just mix and match. There's so many things that come to mind right now, but one of the things that was on my mind when I was warming up today was first of all, the last few days I've kind of felt down, a bit of a head cold. It's kind of like above my neck, so nothing in my chest or anything like that. But it's a good indicator that I need to slow down a little bit, which is one of the ideas that started this whole train of thought about not maxing out every single day, as in like effort-wise. Short sessions of 20, 30 minutes are welcome, and not just welcome in a program like this, but also necessary. And so, I've come in today and I'm like, okay, I'll work with front squats today, but I don't want to do what I've been doing recently, and I've spoken about it at quite a few videos, but I've been doing a lot of single leg warm-ups, split squats, front foot elevated, back foot elevated. I've done Cossack squats. I've done a lot of stuff as a warm-up to my primary stuff. This whole block of the last few months has been very, very heavy on the quads. I've gone from, as you guys know, from the hack squat to the belt squat. Still doing the belt squat, but part of the warm up every day is just to wake the quads up a little bit, and single leg work seems to do that really well for me. Today I didn't want to do that. Today I wanted to do something else, just purely to just make things easy. And so I went with this, Lou bends. Have not done them in a little while. I thought, today's a light day, short day. Let's do that. And I did that, and as I was doing that, I started feeling the QL muscle, which is that lower back muscle, which nobody knows about. And then it made me I started thinking about, the transverse abdominis and all these core muscles, which frankly no one gives a shit. Like when bodybuilders step out onto the stage, no one goes, "Oh, did you see his psoas muscle? It's amazing." Nah, man, this stuff is like deep next to your damn soul. And no one's going to see that. Whether it's developed or not, no one's going to see that. But if you're interested in performance and human movement rather than aesthetics and, just seeing things with your eyes, if you're interested more about, how does LeBron jump so high and then flush it? How does Zach LaVine have a 45-inch vertical leap? How does John Morant have a 47? How does MJ have a 49, 50-inch vertical leap? How do these people jump? Zion Williamson, he's a big old dude, but he's got a vertical of like 46, I think. How does a man that size elevate that high? And if you've kind of found yourself wondering about some of these questions, I think the very next few ideas is, okay, what generates this power? There's muscle involvement, of course, but it's not the end story, right? Because the bodybuilders on stage should be jumping through the roof if it was just about the muscle. So clearly it's not just that. What about the tendons? So in that space, tendons are very important, right? So that's a field of thinking that bodybuilders and powerlifters don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. But if you want to produce power, you need tendon strength. In fact, there's a very strong correlation between how stiff your tendons are and how high you can jump. Ligaments. What about the central nervous system? The ligaments are very important as well for joint integrity. What about the central nervous system, the thing that drives it all? Does the nervous system fire at once, or does it bleed power in? So many of these different ideas occur when you start thinking about performance and not just aesthetics. And one of the things that I always come back to, man, and it's it dominates some of my thoughts, and I often go on a tangent when I start thinking about this stuff. And that's just the deep core muscles. Like I mentioned the QL, but the iliacus and the psoas muscles, the guys that flex the hip. Just think about it for a second there. So our body is amazingly designed, but it favors certain movements over others. For instance, look at the size of our hip extensors. The glute, the hamstring, these are huge slabs of muscle. What flexes the hip? Well, frankly, fuck all. Fuck all. You got this little thing called the psoas muscle, the iliopsoas, iliacus and psoas put together, iliopsoas. You got this rectus femoris, which is not the greatest hip flexor, but it does stuff as well. You are so overpowered, mass to mass ratio in terms of extension to flexion. They just you think to yourself, shit, man. And I don't even train the hip flexors. That's just the general vibe of the lifter out there. Most people don't train hip flexion. And so you have this huge musculature on the back here that's amazing at extension. And you got these tiny little things at the front which are holding on for dear life, and you don't even train them. That's a problem. So, ever since I started doing heavy freaking sit-ups, I've experienced a dip in strength around the day that I do the sit-ups. So, a few days ago, I did sit-ups, went crazy. In fact, I performed really, really well, and then that made me go even crazier. So, usually I will do like 3 sets of 10 kilos with 10 kilos. So, 3 sets of 10 with 10 kilos behind my head. But the other day, I felt really strong, and I ended up doing 5 sets of 20. So there's been a huge progression in my strength to flex my hip, which sit-ups do. And as a result of that huge session, I am wiped. These front squats that I did today were frankly painful on the front of my hip. My hip flexors were screaming, like literal DOMs, and I cannot stay upright. So I end up bending over hard. Which makes me think, does an upright posture in a squat have anything to do with hip flexion strength? It's really interesting stuff. And that's kind of where I'm thinking right now. I love sit-ups. They make me strong in hip extension. So every time I do rack pulls, I have to do sit-ups in order for me to prevent a freaking hernia from shooting out of the side of me. So I need to do that. That's just a pair that I've learned the hard way. I don't want to get a hernia. So I need to do that. And when I do that, sit-ups take a chunk of the week to recover. And so the days after that, I need to be mindful that I'm not going to be very strong. Which is interesting now, because I have to now rejig the entire training program, because usually I do an upper push-pull, then I do lower push-pull. Then core. The other way around. So I do lower push, lower pull, upper push, upper pull, and then I do core, and then the next day I do lower push. It's very hard to do a lower push when your hip flexors are fried. This is the dominant nature of hip flexors. You tire them out, you won't be able to push or pull with your lower body. So they're not sexy, they're not big, no one's going to care about them on a bodybuilding stage. But hip flexors are one of those things that are very important for people that are interested in performance. Whether you're jumping, sprinting, doing anything athletic, hip flexors become a huge concern. And they will diminish your performance if they're fatigued. and they will also diminish your performance if they are weak. So you need to structure your workouts around the hip flexors because that's how dominant they are to the human movement. Amazing stuff. Appreciate you guys like always. Oh, I almost forgot. This doesn't happen often anymore. Very rare do I get a new name, but Samar Kang popped up on Patreon as a supporter, the latest supporter. So Samar, I want to thank you for doing that, man. It's greatly appreciated. It means a lot to me, man, to have somebody supporting me an extra mile like you are right now. You guys will see a lot of names on this list of Patreon list that I have kind of in the credits of each video. A lot of these people have come and gone, long gone, but I've decided to leave all of these names. So all of the names that you see there have once upon a time supported me through Patreon, and a lot of them still support me just watching videos and commenting and just being generally around me. So no hard feelings, but I just want to make sure that all of these names that have once supported me are still there. So Samar Kang, you are now a part of the list. It means the world to me, man. I want to thank you again, and I want to thank everyone else, past and present, who have supported this channel, this little journey of mine, this little diary of mine that I've kept going for a very long time now. And I frankly can't believe it's still going sometimes, but I'm still here, and a large part of that is because of the great and amazing support through many different ways that I receive on a daily. Appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.